Thank you, thank you. Many of you here today have likely felt the chilling effect of the policies and the rhetoric coming from Washington, D.C., and what the effect has been on businesses and investors and far beyond. The Dow Jones, of course, today fell another 1,000 points, and since Donald Trump's inauguration, it's gone down 6,000 points. But while the most visible impacts of what the new administration is doing may be in the market for stocks and bonds, that's not the only thing that he has caused to crash. The trust market has crashed. The market for democracy has taken a major hit. Hope is being arbitraged in the growing market for fear. Truth has been devalued, and confidence in U.S. leadership around the world has plummeted. We are facing a national emergency for our democracy and a global emergency for our climate system. We have to deal with the democracy crisis in order to solve the climate crisis. The scale and scope of the ongoing attacks on liberty are literally unprecedented. With that in mind, I want to note that before I use what is not a precedent, I understand very well why it is wrong to compare Adolf Hitler's Third Reich to any other movement. It was uniquely evil, full stop. I get it. But there are important lessons from the history of that emergent evil, and here is one that I regard as essential. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, a small group of philosophers who had escaped Hitler's murderous regime returned to Germany and performed a kind of moral autopsy on the Third Reich. The most famous of the so-called Frankfurt School of philosophers was a man named Jürgen Habermas, best known, I would say, but it was Habermas's mentor, Theodor Adorno, who wrote that the first step in that nation's descent into hell was, and I quote, the conversion of all questions of truth into questions of power. He described how the Nazis, and I quote again, attacked the very heart of the distinction between true and false, end quote. The Trump administration is insisting on trying to create their own preferred version of reality. They say Ukraine attacked Russia instead of the other way around, and expect us to believe it. At home, they attack heroes who have defended our nation in war and against cyber attacks as traitors. They say the climate crisis is a hoax invented by the Chinese to destroy American manufacturing. They say coal is clean. They say wind turbines cause cancer. They say sea level rise just creates more beachfront. We've already seen, by the way, how populist authoritarian leaders have used migrants as scapegoats and have fanned the fires of xenophobia to fuel their own rise to power. And power seeking is what this is all about. Our Constitution, written by our founders, is intended to protect us against a threat identical to Donald Trump, someone who seeks power at all costs to get more power. It was in this city in the 1960s that Joan Baez first said that the antidote to despair is action. And we need to remember that now. And during a time of when people were tempted to despair in the struggle for civil rights in this country, Martin Luther King said something about overcoming the forces that try to discourage you and halt progress. He said this: if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. And that's where we are. And every one of the morally based movements in the past had periods when advocates felt despair. But when the central choice was revealed as a choice between right and wrong, then the outcome at a very deep level became foreordained. Because of the way Pope Francis reminded us we have been created as God's children. We love our families. We are devoted to our communities. We have to protect our future. And if you doubt for one moment ever that we as human beings have the capacity to muster sufficient political will to solve this crisis, just remember that political will is itself a renewable resource. Thank you very much.